Looking for these better days.
It is Monday, September 22nd. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. What a wild NFL Sunday we had yesterday. Literally, kicks that were blocked, returned for touchdowns, the amount of defensive scores, and probably the worst beat that we're going to see of this entire NFL season. All occurred yesterday. That laughter is Jared Smith. He joins me here on Better Day. We have a Monday Night Football game to talk about tonight between the Lions and the Ravens, which will wrap up NFL week number 3. But Jared, yesterday was some of the most bizarre football I think we've witnessed in the NFL in quite some time, including what I believe is the worst beat that we will see this NFL season. If you had, like I did, Rams plus 3.5, no words. No words.
Not only did
99
I
point.
have it,
Yeah.
I had it, but it also flipped my millions from positive to negative. I went 2 and 3. It would have been 3 and 2. I mean, I think worst beat of the deck. It's the worst beat I've ever suffered. I thought Jags was bad last week. That was worse.
No, this was the worst football beat I've ever
100%.
seen. 99.9% of the time when you see a defensive player make an interception or a fumble recovery
They go
when the
down.
game's already won, they go down, they take the knee, they slide, they just like celebrate with their teammates. The fact that they ran the blocked kick back for a touchdown to cover minus 3.5 is the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my life. It's unbelievable. Literally, if
Yeah.
you had Eagles minus 3.5 and you won that game, stop gambling because that's the luckiest win you're ever gonna have. And like, there's people that'll claim that it was the right side. It was never the right side.
No.
The Rams were the right side the entire game, and sometimes fluky results happen that way.
That was about as fluky a result as you could find. And again, like, not just the play. I don't define fluke by one play. That
Mhm.
one play was a very unfortunate play, but to me, a fluke is like what happened last week with the Jags Bengals game, where the entire game is going in the Jags direction and then just one drive late. The fluke part of this situation is the fact that the Rams won the game in terms of the box score.
Yeah.
That's the part of that was the fluke. They won yards per play. They were a plus 8% net success rate. They sacked Jalen Hurts 4 times. Here was the problem. They were 1 for 4 in the red zone. The Eagles were 3 for 3. You go 2 for 4 in the red zone, you win the game. They went 1 for 4 in the red zone. And I guess that's credit to Fangio. So that's the part of the game where maybe the Eagles deserved to win, but the Rams were inside the number the whole time, and then it took that insane play for them to get outside the number for the first time the entire day. That was the worst beat I've probably ever suffered in the NFL. Honestly, it should
Yeah.
be on SVP's bad beats intro going forward. It
Of
really
course.
should.
Of course it is. Of course,
How
of
often,
course it
how
is.
many times do you see a defensive lineman return a blocked field goal for a touchdown? How many times has that even happened in the history of the NFL? Like, honestly, maybe 5 times. Like,
It was such a wild day yesterday with the missed kicks, with the blocked kicks, and the returns. Like the Jets also returned a field goal for
yes,
a touchdown.
within
You
like
had
2
the block,
minutes of each other too.
yeah,
That
the
was
block
crazy.
kick in the Browns game, which flipped the game, which was unbelievable. Like we finally have some Survivor League carnage that people lost
Yes.
with the Green Bay Packers, with them losing to the Cleveland Browns. It was an okay day for the 0-2 Dogs. We talked about that trend being a 66% trend going back several
Yeah,
years. It
it was
was
okay.
wound up being 4-4, but 3
Yeah,
outright wins. So if you took some of
true.
these on the money line, if you did like a money
Yes.
line round
If you
robin or
bet the money
something,
line, you did much better. It went back to my thing last week. Like, you're betting on a lot of these ugly dogs. You're betting on Cam Ward. Like,
hmm
you're betting on Russell Wilson. Like, I think you're really asking for trouble with some of these dogs. And I think that's where you have to use a little bit of discernment with some of these trends.
All right, well, let's get into some of these games specifically because I want to talk about whether or not the opinions of the teams have changed because that's, in my mind, how we're going to take advantage in the markets here moving forward. I'm Scott Seidenberg alongside Jared Smith. This is Better Day presented by FanDuel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pods from. If you're tuning in for the first time, I mean, where the heck have you been? There's no excuse. I mean, come on. But we're happy to have you on board. So please stay with us throughout your daily podcast journey. Let's start with the Sunday Night Football game because it's fresh in our minds, Jared. The Chiefs beating the Giants 22-9, so Kansas City avoids the 0-3 start. The Giants do not cover despite multiple chances to backdoor. They had two chances to score a touchdown and backdoor this thing. Well, that's assuming that they would do the whole go for two, down 14, which I think Dable would. But you had a chance there, and instead you don't get it. And the Giants lose here. A terrible performance by Russell Wilson coming off of a career performance. Malik Neighbors didn't have a catch until the fourth quarter. Now, I stupidly played Neighbors over his receptions prop because what I looked at was the Chiefs are blitzing at the second highest rate in the NFL through the first 2 weeks of the season. And I looked at how Russell Wilson has performed against the blitz this year. And in 2 games, Malik Neighbors has 10 targets when the Giants face a blitz. The next highest receiver on the Giants had only 2 targets in Wan'Dale Robinson. So I figured tonight would be a night where Spags is going to blitz Russell Wilson and he's going to look at Malik Neighbors. Nope. No, we're not going to try and get the ball in our hands of our best player. And when we do, we're going to throw a murder ball so that, or a hospital ball as they call, and get him crushed over the middle on a deep shot. Great game, Russ.
Yeah, the problem with that is Spags knows that too. And he rolled his coverages to Neighbors all night. And on the other side of that, Dable had his hand up his tuchus for most of the night, not really doing anything, to your point. Get the guy a quick slant. Get him a screen. Get him a end around. I know it doesn't help your receptions prop, but get him the ball in a free access way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways to get your superstars the ball that don't involve vertical red line, up the field, low percentage play. There's a lot of high percentage ways to get your stars involved, and the Giants did none of that. Now, to be fair, Tracy gets banged up in the early part of the game. The running back room gets compromised. But Russ is terrible, guys. Like, let's be honest. He is reliant very much on a really good game plan and a really good offensive line, and he doesn't have either of those things right now. Thomas only played, I think, half the game. And then once he left, it was a lot of pressure, especially off the edge. And the Chiefs, guys, I mean, I know they're 0-2, but they're a really good team. And Spags is a really good coach. He had a good game plan coming in, and that game went about as expected for me. It was the Chiefs. The ball was kind of tilted downhill most of the night.
Sure.
And it was just kind of a matter of time until Russ screwed the pooch.
Now, I don't think the Chiefs are as good as they've been in the past. Clearly, they are lacking talent. I mean, Travis Kelce's washed, in my opinion, and we're seeing it each and every week that he's not the same player that he once was. You have to rely on Tyquan Thornton to be your number one wide receiver. They're not getting anything from the running game, although Pacheco did go over his 41.5-yard prop last night, a little homecoming for him, the Jersey kid. But this is still not the same Chiefs team. That being said, Jared, you look at their 2 losses to start the year, they could very easily be 3-0. They're 1-2 now, but they could be 3-0. So I don't know if we need to adjust our power rankings on the Kansas City Chiefs as much as maybe the market might be.
I wouldn't be adjusting them at all. Honestly, they are what they are right now. They're a team that knows they don't need to play their best football in November. They don't even need to play it in December. Their schedule is very front-loaded this year. They've already played the Eagles, the Chargers. They play the Ravens next week, then the Lions. Then they have that game on the Bills on November 2nd. Down the stretch, Colts, Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders. And then they get another game at home against the Raiders coming up in a couple weeks. I just they're going to be in the playoffs, and then we'll reassess where they are in January. That has always been the MO with this team. We need to stop freaking out about them in September. We just need to stop. They don't have their 2 best receivers. They haven't had them the whole season. And Mahomes is still making insane throws and figuring out ways to keep his team in the game, despite the fact that they are severely limited. but their defense is still a top-notch unit, and they still have the best player in the sport when push comes to shove. So we need to just RELAX. They might not be a great bet week to week, but are you going to be fading them in January when they're a dog on the road in Buffalo or Baltimore in the playoffs? No, I'm not. And until they lose one of those games in the AFC, I'm not dropping my opinion on this team.
Well, this might be the time to buy in on them if you haven't done so already, because they will get Xavier Worthy back. They will get Rashee Rice back. And we haven't seen the Kansas City Chiefs in 3 games at full strength yet. When this team is at full strength, then we'll see what they're capable of, with the Chargers being 3-0 and in first place right now with a win over the Kansas City Chiefs. They are minus 155 to win the AFC West up on FanDuel. The Chiefs are still plus 260. Plus 260 is a great bet right now on the Kansas City Chiefs to win the AFC West, because all they need to do is win that game against the Chargers, and then it'll come down to other tiebreakers. So you still have everything
Big game
right
for
in
the
front.
Chargers today, though. Honestly, I thought if the Chargers lost that game today or yesterday to the Broncos, that would have been come on, guys. Like, we know how this is going to end here. But the Chargers look legit. The Chargers look legit.
There's another game, by the way. If you had Broncos plus the 2.5, and I know you could have gotten the 3 at post, but like in the Circa Millions contest, it was 2.5. The Chargers were the number 1 most selected team in the contest at 2.5. I mean, how did the Chargers cover that game? The Broncos had a 20-13 lead in the fourth quarter. The Chargers march right down the field and score a touchdown. All right, fine. It's a 20-20 game. The Broncos go 3 and out in 50 seconds. You can't milk any clock there. And instead, you give the ball right back to the Chargers with your defense being gassed because they just gave up a 75-yard drive. Of course the Chargers were going to move the ball into field goal range. The game was over at that point. Like, that's the live bet point right there. When the Broncos are punting, that's the live bet opportunity, because the Chargers were going to move down the field and kick a field goal. Like, this is the second week in a row where the Broncos had a very high win percentage in the fourth quarter and gave the game away. And I don't know if that's on Bo Nix, if it's on Sean Payton, if whoever it's on. I'll tell you what, this Broncos defense is nothing like we thought they were going to look like in the beginning of the season. Everyone said coming into the year this was one of the best units in the NFL. They stink. They can't stop anybody.
Yeah, it's another game where the stats were kind of weird. Like, I didn't know what to make of the game last week, but I did have your takeaway of you can't give up 7.1 yards per play to the Colts. But you know what? Maybe we're wrong. Like, listen, we got to trust what we're seeing with the Colts right now. The Colts are a legit offense. Daniel Jones is doing things no other quarterbacks are doing. I think I saw a stat like the first quarterback in X number of years to have 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, no turnovers the first 3 weeks. So maybe giving up 7 yards per play and needing a late field goal to lose to the Colts isn't the worst result in the world. The stats today were funky. Denver won yards per play, but they were a minus 17% net success rate. So they were gaining a lot of yards, but they weren't really, having enough plays to really, make their dent. They were a +2 in the turnover margin, but they had 10 penalties in the game. So again, like, they're kind of doing some positives. They forced 2 turnovers. They didn't turn it over themselves, but they committed 10 penalties. They sacked Justin Herbert 5 times. Yeah. But they gave up 8 out of 17 on third downs. And they themselves only converted 2 out of 13 on third downs. So again, when I'm looking at these Broncos stats, I'm like 1 step forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. I don't really know what to make of them just yet. I don't have a strong opinion or feel for the Broncos. The Chargers look to have a little bit of the Chiefs factor going early on in the season, where they're not really dominating the box score, but they are winning games with plays late in the fourth quarter. And again, that's not what we expected either. But now we're 3 games in, and they've had 3 games. Really, the Vegas game, they just kind of, leaned on Vegas. But Chiefs, Broncos, they're 2 real big games. They were down, or they were kind of even, or they were kind of holding on for dear life, and then they made a big burst in the fourth quarter that put them across the finish line. So maybe that's the Harbaugh effect, right? Like, I don't really want to upgrade or downgrade either of these teams based on what I saw, because I think Denver did some positives, but also some negatives, and the Chargers are very anti-Chargers right now from what we expect.
Chargers are about to hit a tough travel stretch. This is the moment that we talked about before the season, looking at their schedule. They will now head cross country to play the Giants, then return back cross country to host the Commanders, then travel back cross country again to face the Dolphins, and then back cross country again to host the Colts. The mileage will add up. If you have look ahead lines right now, I'd honestly be looking at the Colts in that game in a couple of weeks from now, because I do think the wear and tear will eventually catch up to the Chargers in a couple of weeks, or maybe even it's at the Dolphins, taking the points of the Dolphins if the travel spot is a lot here for the Chargers. Let's talk faulty finishes, Jared, because there were a lot of them here yesterday. One faulty finish, the 49ers winning and not covering against the Cardinals. I know that they had the fourth and goal that they missed. The safety also is kind of fluky. Like, there's a holding penalty in the end zone, leads to a safety. That's why they only won by one. They could have won by three if they didn't get that safety, because I do believe they would have marched down the field and scored. But you look at the yards per play numbers, like the 49ers played better. The 49ers deserved a better outcome than to win just by one over the Cardinals.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Plus 1.6 net yards per play. But, the turnover, that was kind of the biggie. And you commit the turnover, you go 2 for 10 on third downs, 1 for 4 in the red zone. So the Niners definitely had their chances to put that game away, and they just couldn't get across the finish line. Definitely a fluky cover by Arizona, but I think the right team won the game.
Sure.
I think the right team won the game. You just had that weird, right? Games don't land one in the NFL, right? Bullshit. We've seen that multiple times already this year. Games land any old number. I don't want to hear the whole sharp, oh no, you got to get this number. I'm telling you, 1s and 2s matter more to me now in the NFL. I am more willing to take 1.5 than I used to be 5-10 years ago, because these games land one more often than you think. Mac he had a valiant effort, sprained his knee during the middle of the game. Pearsall looks like he's becoming a stud. When they get Jennings back and Pearsall, and if Ayuk ever decides to come back, this is an offense with Purdy that is legit, and they're 3-0, and they probably shouldn't be because of the injuries. So there's definitely something to this Niners team this year, right? I don't know if the voodoo will ever stop. If the voodoo ever stops with the injuries and they get healthy down the stretch, they are stacking wins to where they're going to be, right? Packers lose. So maybe now the 1 seed becomes in jeopardy, although the Eagles just keep pulling rabbits out of their hats. So maybe they're just going to be the 1 seed. Maybe we're just fooling ourselves trying to predict this crazy NFC, and it's just going to be Niners Eagles like it's been for the last decade.
It's amazing. The 49ers doing all of this. No Brandon Ayuk, no George Kittle, no Brock Purdy.
Yeah, no Kittle.
Nick Bosa goes down, no Juwan Jennings, and they put up 355 yards of total offense. It is unbelievable here. Here's what I just, as I'm perusing Twitter here, saw this really interesting stat. According to True Media, NFL offenses are averaging only 317.9 yards per game this season. It is the lowest total since 2005 and the third lowest total this century. Now, I don't think that is a big cause for concern, because I think that it's because average starting field position is higher.
Agreed.
Right?
Great call. 100%
and
exactly why. So it's not even something worth mentioning as offense is down.
But what it is worth mentioning is we should be looking at player prop yardages to go
Agreed.
under, because the yards are not there anymore. With teams
Agreed.
starting the ball on the 35, maybe even the 40-yard line, there's less yardage in these games. And so, everyone loves betting these player props to go over in yardage, but the fact that NFL teams are only averaging the lowest yards per game since 2005, 317 yards, the quarterbacks are not throwing for 300 yards. The receivers are not going for 100 yards. The running backs aren't going for 100 yards. Play the yardage under. Now, in certain spots, you certainly like some guys, and this is where maybe you can get into the whole laddering and, I'm going to go this guy over this, over this, over this, over this, whatever. But for the most part, the numbers are jumping off the page. There's not enough yards to go around. And so I think
100%.
you need to be looking at props to go under yardage.
100%. That's really the only takeaway from it.
Yeah.
Anyone who looks at that and thinks offense is down, didn't watch the Commanders Raiders game today. Didn't watch the Colts Titans game today. Like, offense is fine.
Hmm.
Games are going to be funky sometimes, and you're going to get weird results. The overarching theme in the NFL this year, our kickoff returns are now a big time factor in the game. Certain
Yes.
teams are going to be better at them. Certain teams are going to be worse. You should be looking at average starting field position, whereas before, most teams were very much condensed in a very tight window of average starting field position based on how smart you are and how strategic you
Hmm.
are with the kickoffs. Now that delta between the good starting field positions and the bad starting field positions is going to be wider. You have to be willing to adjust the typical things that you look at and bet as the NFL rules adjust. That's just the nature of the sport. It keeps changing.
Was Patriots Steelers the biggest phony final you've ever seen?
Not biggest. I think Rams Eagles was just ridiculous. But it was on my list. I mean, you're a plus 1.1 net yards per play. You turn it over what, four times? I think actually no, five.
Five.
Sorry, five.
Yeah.
Five turnovers. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. Um, and how many were on the goal line? I mean, I think that's something that you can't even account for is how many of those were, even if you take a sack or a negative, you're getting 3 points, but you ended up getting 0 points multiple times. Good for my under. I thought the Steelers defense played a lot better, but obviously not well enough. I thought the Patriots defense played well. Honestly, I really did. You hold Pittsburgh to 4.1 yards per play. Um, so
Patriots got
and they went 3 for 3 in the
26
red zone.
first downs. Patriots got
Wow.
26 first downs and 369 yards of offense and only scored 2 touchdowns.
Wow. Yeah, I think I was fortunate to hit the under in that game. So I guess that makes up for the fact that the Rams Eagles game ended the way that it did. I was definitely fortunate to hit the under in that Patriots Steelers game. I don't think my opinion of either team changes. I think the Steelers are a very average team. Aaron Rodgers is playing very average. Their defense is playing below average, which is not what we expected. And New England is a team that's going to beat themselves. And unless they're getting kickoff returns for touchdowns, they almost lost to Miami last week. So
Yeah.
I think New England was a very strong buy in the offseason. All the sharps love New England. It got bet up a whole win from 7.5 to 8.5, and under 8.5 is going to be that one's going to cash before Christmas, I think.
Incredible live betting opportunity in that game. Once Ramondre Stevenson fumbled again, live bet all of his unders because he wasn't going to touch the ball in the second half. And he
Good
didn't.
call.
4 carries for 18 yards he finished with on the day. So incredible live betting. These are some things that you can point to during the course of a game. Same thing with like the Giants game last night. Tyrone Tracy goes out. Yeah, you hate guys that go out with injuries, but now you can start betting Cam Scatterboot to go over his yardage or go over
He was
receptions or something like that.
unbelievable last night. How did he not get
He's
one touch in the red zone in the second half of that game?
He's a beast. Although after he
Yeah.
scored that touchdown and he did the backflip, I'm like, don't do that. Don't do
Yeah.
that. We've seen too many guys get hurt on
Save the
celebrations. Don't
backflip
do that.
for practice. Don't do them in the game. I think these
Don't do-
guys just they're in the moment and they
yeah,
like joy overtakes them. That wasn't his first NFL touchdown, was it? I don't know if it
he
was.
scored last week. Yeah.
Oh, he scored last week too.
So let's talk about Jake Browning. My goodness. You want to talk about a team that loves to turn the ball over? And it really wasn't all on Jake Browning. He did have 2 interceptions, but the fumbles also for at the unlikely times. The Vikings had 2 defensive touchdowns in this game, 5 turnovers for the Bengals, 3 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and the Vikings blow out the
Mm.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, plus 18% net success rate. That's the second biggest margin of the season. Bears Lions last week was the largest at 19%. That's the belt to ass game of the week.
Yeah.
Vikings over Bengals. Not really much to say. Great call by you. I think Vikings and over, right?
Yep.
Um, Wentz looks really average, but if the defense is going to be that good, the irony is we really should have seen this coming. I think a strong take I have in the NFL is to fade the teams that cover in fluke ways the next week.
Yes. Yes.
So the Giants, right, had I would say very interesting result last week against Dallas, where they probably should have won the game, but they didn't.
Yep.
And then the next week they kind of fall flat on their face, right? I feel like the same thing about Cincinnati.
Yep.
Probably didn't deserve to win or even cover that game last week. And then
Hmm.
the next week they fall flat on their face. So I think that's just some of these teams. I mean, think about the variance with the results. Atlanta beats Minnesota, dominates Minnesota. Don't even let Minnesota get in the red zone last week. And
Hmm.
Atlanta yesterday couldn't score. They didn't get in the red zone. Meanwhile, Minnesota can't do anything, and now they're scoring 48 points against Cincinnati, who beats Jacksonville, scores 30
Yep.
plus. So it's just like the transitive property of football is just insane, and it will drive you nuts on a weekly basis.
Although what we should have known, and I'm kicking myself because I did think about this before the game last night, and I still thought the Giants would cover. The Chicago Bears have not looked good this season. But yesterday, Caleb Williams looked like a Pro Bowler
Yep.
against the Dallas Cowboys defense.
I thought Ben
And
Johnson called a really good game. He called up the
sure,
explosive on the flea
yes.
flicker. I thought Ben Johnson was much better at game planning in that spot than it was
But
Caleb Williams. But Williams was good too.
the point I'm trying to make is that the Giants looked like they figured things out on offense last week, and Russell Wilson had the career game. But maybe that was more about the Cowboys being absolutely putrid on defense, because look at what we saw here yesterday. The Cowboys were putrid on defense against the Chicago Bears. So it just feels like everybody's looking good against the Bears. I mean, against the Cowboys. And so maybe we shouldn't have put, or I shouldn't have put too much stock in the Giants' performance last week, because watching the Bears game yesterday, it should have told me that that performance by Russ was more about the Cowboys absolutely being trash on defense.
Very fair. Especially when their secondary was that poor.
Yep.
Whereas I would say the Chiefs are one of the most disciplined secondaries in the league in terms of the way they disguise their coverages
Hmm.
and the way they make things difficult on the quarterback. Whereas the Cowboys right now with Eberflus, they play the most zone coverage in the league. Russ knows what he's going to get on every single snap, and it's
Yeah.
a lot more comfortable. Whereas the Chiefs are very multiple in what they do with their coverages. They disguise them better, and they make Russ actually process. And that
Hmm.
is the difference between Dallas and most other secondaries. Eberflus, rain, sleet, snow, or wind, or shine, he is playing soft zone. And it's just a very comfortable way of going into a game, knowing you're going to get one style of defense.
We had a lot of hits and a lot of misses up on betterday.com. It's just been an up and down type of football season. That's just the way it goes. We have wins, we have losses. Some of the losses are bad beats, which those happen. Some of the wins are lucky. Those are going to happen as well. And some of the wins are just, I think I'm most proud of whether a game wins or loses. I am most proud when the handicap comes through. Like when what you base your decision off of, what you base your bet off of, if it plays out that way and you still lose the bet, I'm okay with it, because that's how we handicap the game. Like if the Commanders, incredible handicap by us. We said you wait until you didn't even need to wait until the news became official, right? We just knew about the the short week and the Raiders going on the road, and the Commanders were the right play with Mariota. Even though we recommended you wait until that line goes down to 2.5 with the announcement of Jaden Daniels being out, it didn't matter. They blew him out. We did cash the Ashton Genty over rushing attempts. I thought that was a really sound handicap, with just based off of the a couple of things here. It was the quotes from both Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly about getting Genty more involved in the offense. It was also because, Jared, we talked about this last week. When people do the props and it's like, oh, this guy went over in this many games, this guy went under in this many games. Well, the sports book's adjusting the lines based off of that, right? And so for Genty, he went over in week number 1. His line in week number 2 went up. He went under. His line in week number 3 goes down. Well, we took the over yesterday, but this is something that I saw, and I think we need to look at this for next week. Okay. Geno Smith threw 3 interceptions a week ago. This season, what I looked at was teams, how much rushing attempts they're averaging. And on average, it's like 25, 26 at the most. It's like the different range of, home, away, different situations. About 25.8 rushes per game. But going back the last 4 seasons, since the start of the 2021 season, there's been 104 games in which a quarterback has thrown, or a team has thrown, 3 or more interceptions. In the following games, those teams are averaging 28 rushes per game.
Mm.
So 3 more carries per game on average than what the regular average has been. So it makes sense, right? You had a bad day throwing the football. You turn the ball over a lot. Maybe now there's going to be a focus on the run next week. Maybe we should look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe we should look at Chase Brown rushing attempts next week with Jake Browning turning the football over, the 3 interceptions last week, the 2 interceptions here today. I would have loved to have taken the Browning prop today or yesterday didn't really work out. What do you think about next week looking at Chase Brown rushing attempts?
Tough because you got a negative game script likely at Denver, but I like the
Good
angle.
point. Good point.
I like the angle much better in Vegas with Genti against the
Yeah.
Bears. Um, I think that would be that feels like the Genti game. Um, and we're already seeing, I think, a little bit of movement towards Vegas. I think Chicago opened a slight favorite. Now it kind of flipped. Um, yeah, I think Chase Brown, I expected more from him this year, but now it's obviously in a really dire strait.
Yep. As he,
3 yards today. I mean, goodness gracious, 10 carries for
10 carries for 3 yards. But I mean, they were losing from the get-go.
ugly
I mean,
stat
the game
line.
was over. They were losing right away. Let's take a look at a game that I actually want to play here on Thursday. I think the Seahawks are the play on Thursday against the Cardinals. The
Mm,
Cardinals, who had a fluky result here against the 49ers, right? And again, I don't know how much we can take away from their first 2 games against 2 really bad teams in the Saints and the Panthers. The Seahawks look good. And yeah, the Seahawks beat up on the Saints yesterday, but that's the same Saints team that was driving to win the game against these same Arizona Cardinals. And now the Cardinals lose James Conner for the season, so Trey Benson has to take over at running back. It's a short week. I understand short weeks benefit the home teams, but you and I have talked about this before, Jared. That's more so later in the year than
yep.
earlier in the year. And plus, doesn't it help the Seahawks that they had a cakewalk of a game here? That they didn't have to, play down to the wire in a pressure situation. So now it's like a little less stress on the body. It's kind of like we talk about with pitch counts in baseball. Well, what type of pitches are you throwing, right? You can play a football
Yeah.
game. Both teams can play on Sunday. What type of game was it? Was it a stressful game? Did it more wear and tear on your body? Yes, the Cardinals had that here on Sunday, not the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks on Thursday in Arizona.
I agree. I think that's going to be a play too, especially as a dog. Um, the one thing that causes concern, has the head coach had a Thursday night road game? McDonald last year had 2 Thursday night games, one of them at home to San Francisco, his first game, and traditionally rookie head coaches or Thursday night rookie head coaches, right? I guess
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance that, you're in your second year as a head coach and you haven't yet played a Thursday night game, although I feel like most teams play at least one every year. Um, he had 2 Thursday night games last year. Lost the first one to the Niners in pretty decisive fashion, as teams again typically do. But then the second one, very late in the year, on the road at Chicago, a 6-3 slugfest.
Mm.
But that was that's a tough travel spot, right? From Seattle to Chicago on a Thursday night. This one a much easier situation where you're not actually, to be fair, I don't know. Is Arizona? I forget which time zone they're in. They have their own time zone in Arizona.
They
If
stay.
they are currently
They,
on Pacific time zone, then it's a same time zone game on a Thursday night. So that's not a huge shift. You know what I'm talking about, right? They're
yes,
weird
because they
in
don't. They
Arizona. They
don't
have their
do.
own
They
freaking
don't do.
time zone. I have no idea what time it is in Arizona ever.
They don't do daylight savings. So like they
Correct.
are.
So they're not there yet.
They are currently still. They are currently Pacific time.
All right. So it's a
Yeah.
same time zone game on a Thursday night short week, and then all of your points align. As a dog, I feel like I think Seattle right now is the better team. I do. I think the Connor injury matters.
Yep.
He does a lot for them, not just a running back. That is not your typical running back injury. Like if Isaiah Pacheco was out, I wouldn't downgrade the Chiefs. Connor does so much in the pass game, in blocking. He's on the field all the time. So that's why Benson, who was getting some good run, wasn't able to take over more of a workload because he is not as good out of the backfield
Mm.
and in pass pro. So big loss for Arizona with Connor.
Yeah. Again, I feel like Seahawks on the money line. Seahawks, I mean, right now, +1.5. If you want to tease them up, I don't even think you need to. But you could do some sort of teaser, but there's nothing, there's no real dance partner with
No,
them. I guess if
don't
you have an
tease
open
it.
leg or
Just
not.
play it straight. Unless you
Yeah,
have a
just
shop that does minus 120s.
no. But although I will say, speaking of teasers, the new pricing on teasers eliminates the tease down. Okay, but you can still tease up. And the reason why I
Mm,
say that is because if you look at the pricing of the alternate spreads, you're actually, even at the worst teaser pricing in the market, which is minus 135, you are parlaying two legs at minus 310 odds. Oftentimes, when you look at the alternate spreads, the plus 7.5s, you're laying more than minus 310. So it actually still is mathematically viable to tease up,
interesting.
but teasing down makes no sense because the money line price on the 6.5 point
It's
favorites or the
cheaper.
7 point favorites is less than minus 310. So
Good
you're
point.
better off just doing a money line or whatever. But teasing up, it always, you always have to factor in how much is that alternate spread going to cost you. And oftentimes, as I've looked, the alternate spread is actually more expensive than minus 310. So even at the worst teaser number of
Mm,
minus 135, you still find value. Like that's what I did. I did a teaser yesterday with the Patriots and the Texans, and they both covered plus
nice.
7.5.
Oh wow! So so that was a very fortunate teaser because they both lost by
Yes.
7. How about
Yes,
that?
that was a very fortunate teaser. But that one made sense even at minus 134 odds because the alternate lines were it was like minus 323 on the Patriots side and minus 340, I think, on the Texans side. It was crazy, the pricing with those two alternate spreads. So you
Interesting.
always have to shop around and be price sensitive to those things. But I will admit, it has eliminated the tease down. Never tease down. Never, ever, 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 ever.
I never thought of it from a binary perspective in that way. The way that I viewed it was if the price is this,
Mm-hmm.
it's not worth the tease. But you are looking at it from a binary point of view. And my guess is they value those points more on the favorite side because they just think the favorite's going to win the game. And so they shade that price 10, 15, 20 cents just slightly
Mm-hmm.
because A, the public likes to bet the favorites. B, they think maybe in that particular case, the favorite has a better chance to just flat out win the game. So they're shading the money line a little bit stronger than they would those alternate spreads. Yeah, listen, numbers are numbers. Well, who might argue with numbers?
Do the math, people. Do the math. All right, let's talk about Monday Night Football tonight. Lions on the road at the Baltimore Ravens. Right now, up on the up on the FanDuel Sportsbook, we have Ravens minus 5.5 and a total of 53.5. What was your first read on this game?
Hmm. I mean, I thought you look at that Browns game last week and you thought that the Ravens, I don't want to say were fortunate to win because they kind of made enough plays to win the game, but the
Mm-hmm.
stats were not as decisive as typical 41-17 games are. Right? They only gained 4.6 yards per play with a 40% success rate. Lamar took 3 sacks. It was the defense that got a couple turnovers. Special teams blocked the punt. Like that was directly resulting in 21 out of Baltimore's 41 points. And the Browns were really good on third down. So I think the secondary for the Ravens can be had. I think the key is Jared Goff comfortable, right? Outdoors, we talk about that narrative all the time, but I think the key in this spot is how comfortable is he against this Ravens secondary and how the Ravens play it. Lions offense looks legit. I don't want to overreact to the one game against the Bears, but based on how the Bears looked yesterday, I think you can at least say that that was a really positive result for Detroit. And despite the fact that it snowballed and there was maybe some I want to stick at the Ben Johnson vibes in that
Mm-hmm.
game, I think the Lions offense, maybe not back, but definitely at least upper tier. So should be a really fun game, really high total. Anytime you see a total above 51 in the NFL, you need a lot of things to go right in order
Yeah.
for you to hit that total, right? For example, look at the Bears Cowboys game. We did the podcast on Thursday. I said, I'll be honest, I'm betting under 50.5. Didn't look good in the first half, but you needed it to continue in both halves in order for you to get over a high total like that in the NFL. So you want to go under, but if Lamar is doing Lamar things, I don't want to be under on a game.
I know. It's unbelievable. Now, am I a sicko for trying to do the whole, as you mentioned, the transitive property of the NFL?
Yes,
So,
again. I tried to do it yesterday with Minnesota and
s- s-
Cincinnati and Atlanta. It
so
drives me
here,
nuts.
so here we go. We have the Ravens beat the Browns 41-17. Okay. The Browns just beat the Packers 13-10. And the Lions got dominated by the Packers in week number 1. So that means that the Ravens should dominate the Lions, right? Is
That's
that
what
how it
the
works?
transitive property says if it's not bizarro world like we saw with Cincinnati, Minnesota, Atlanta yesterday.
That's
Which was
that's
the
how.
opposite of everything you just said.
Yeah. All right. We have to cook up a same game parlay like we always do here on
Yeah,
the
let's do
program for
that.
these primetime
I
games.
have no
Eh,
bets on this game tonight. Absolutely none. So give me something to sweat that's a long shot that we can have fun with.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. All right, here we go. Monday Night Football, the Ravens hosting the Lions. We are back with a negatively correlated same game parlay. These odds are courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook, and this is what we're going to do. We are going to hope for a deep shot down the field to Jamison Williams. This is the player that made me start to think about a negatively correlated same game parlay in the first place. It was Jamison Williams. You, my friend, are responsible for my inspiration, for thinking, man, a player can just get one catch and go for a 60-yard touchdown, and that's it. And that's all he gets for the whole game. Maybe we can parlay that. And you know what? We can. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to take Jamison Williams over 49.5 receiving yards, same game parlayed with Jamison Williams under 3.5 receptions. Currently on the
Yes.
FanDuel Sportsbook, that is plus 613. Now, you want to get juicy, I'm going to get even juicier. We throw in Jamison Williams anytime touchdown, and you now have a 3-leg same game parlay of plus 1,700. Are you coming
Yeah,
with me?
100%. And they don't let you put the longest reception props in the parlays, but that's going to be my like booster here, right? It'll be like my finish even type thing. So I'll put like a half a unit on this parlay, and then I'll put the other half a unit on Jamison Williams over 22.5 yards for longest
Mhm.
reception. So let's say we get the deep shot, but then we get screwed on some BS reception late in the game. Then he gets the 4. And at least we finish even on the night, and we won't be in the red for, taking a shot. But 2-0 is very likely, right? Like if we hit
Yeah.
the longest reception prop, well, then we're probably live for the parlay.
I am going to give you the other side of this same game parlay, negatively correlated, and that is looking at it from a Baltimore Ravens perspective. So we are going to go Rashad Bateman over 35.5 receiving yards, Rashad Bateman under 2.5 receptions. That's plus 789
Oh,
up on
wow.
FanDuel right now. And then if we add in the Rashad Bateman anytime touchdown, plus 2115. So you have a Lions
Mm,
version and a Ravens version for tonight.
man, all we got to do is hit one.
It's
All
going
we
to be
got to
so
do
great.
is hit one for glory. And I
That's
would
it.
also add in, I don't know what the Bateman, let's look at what the Bateman longest reception prop is. It's only 18.5. That seems
Hmm.
pretty low. So again, usually I put 2% of a bankroll on one bet. I have no bets for this game tonight. So I'm going to take my usual 2% and I'm going to split it. 1 unit on the Baltimore side, 1 unit on the Lions side, half unit on the long reception overs, half unit on the parlays, and we pray to the gambling gods. Odds are we're going to finish 1-1, right?
Yeah.
We're going to hit both long receptions props, and we'll probably lose both parlays. That's probably
Yeah.
what will happen.
It always
Especially in
happens.
a high total game. I do think high total games, you look more to the overs on these props.
Hmm. For sure. All right, that'll wrap up our football conversation. Any final thoughts, Jared, on NFL Sunday week number 3, or just week 3 as a any in whole general thoughts, whatever.
We didn't mention the Packers game at all. Obviously, that game was kind of a snoozer. I, I don't even know. That game might have been the flukiest game of the day. Green
Yeah.
Bay up 10-0 late fourth quarter, can't close it out against Joe Flacco. I'm not downgrading Green Bay. I'm not. I thought they've looked like gangbusters the first 2 weeks, and they looked the opposite this week, and they get
Mhm.
Dallas coming up. So I think this is a good get right spot for Green Bay.
Yeah. Oh, I will be on the Green Bay team total going over in that game. I feel like
Oh, give me all the Jordan Love props. Give me all those props. Like, good. He was awful. The Packers offense was really bad. You got to tip your cap to the Browns defense. They were really good. And I think
if
it's going to be a completely different animal. Very emotional game, too, with Micah Parsons' homecoming.
yeah. So the Cowboys have played 3 games so far, and I believe all 3 teams have gone over their team total.
By a wide margin.
Yeah. So
Oh,
in
actually,
week number
no. Eagles
no,
didn't. Eagles didn't. Eagles stayed under, right? Eagles stayed
um,
under.
their team total. Okay. Yeah. You know what's
I
crazy is
think
that
so because the game, right? The total was 48, and the Eagles won by 4. And it was a 7-point spread, right? 8-point spread. So it's probably like 27, 28 points
yeah,
for
the
the
Eagles
Eagles team total.
Eagles scored 24 points.
And I think their team
And
total was
so
28-ish.
it was 47.5 with a 7-point spread. Or
Yeah.
a seven and a
So,
half point spread.
so
So you're talking
27,
about
28,
40.
somewhere in that range.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. Okay. But we know that the Bears went over and
Yes. The
the
last 2 weeks, it's
and
been really
the
bad.
Giants went significantly over their team total. I will be on the Packers
Yeah,
team total to go over in this
I
game.
would
Part of me
agree.
wants to bet the Lions team total tonight to go over 23 and a half. I think the Lions can score
Mm,
24 tonight.
yeah,
What a
we'll
weird
see.
day. What a weird day. Before we wrap things up, I know we don't usually do a lot of baseball here on the football programs, but we are coming down to the stretch here. This is going to be an incredible week of Major League Baseball. These standings are like, this is ridiculous. The Blue Jays lead the Yankees by 2 games in the American League East, but keep in mind Blue Jays have the tiebreaker, so it's like the Yankees are back 3 games, so they'll have to make that up. The Tigers are we could be witnessing history, Jared. The Tigers were 15 and a half games up on the Guardians in July. And earlier this month, they were 10 games up. The Tigers lead the Guardians by 1 game now for the American League Central. And they will
Wow.
play 3 games against the Guardians starting tomorrow. A
That's
3-game
awesome.
series. If Cleveland, there's a chance that not only does Cleveland beat the Tigers in 2 out of 3 games and wins this division, but there's a chance the Detroit Tigers don't make the postseason entirely.
That
The,
would
the,
be unbelievable.
would that be the biggest collapse in baseball history? I mean,
I
you had the
guess.
best
I don't know.
you you had the best record in baseball. You're 15 and a half games up. You're 10 games up to start the month of September. And not only do you not win your division, you don't even get a wild card.
I mean, anyone who was thinking
Unbelievable.
that the Tigers were going to make a run in October was smoking the ganja. Um,
It's
here's how I
unbelievable.
feel about the Red Sox, Yankees, Blue Jays situation. I guess it's really just Yankees, Blue
Yeah.
Jays. I wouldn't care, honestly. And I know that
Yeah.
sounds really weird, but I don't really think it matters who wins the division or not. I honestly don't. I don't think it's going to impact my opinions on the playoffs at all. Maybe, you get an extra game at home in the division series, right? But I don't know. I think I would rather play in the wild card round based off of how I've seen these postseasons go over the last few years.
Hey,
Um,
get hot, and make a run.
yeah, I honestly, I think the extra home game and the extra rest might be mitigated a little bit by the fact that the team in the wild card wins the wild card and gets
Mhm.
momentum going into the divisional round. So I am not like pushing the panic button for either team
Sure.
if they don't win the division. In fact, I think it might end up being a sneaky advantage. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see how it plays out.
and we know that baseball is an everyday sport. So when you're
Yes.
taking 5 days off to wait for the next
I
opponent to
think it's
come in,
longer than
it's
that if the
yeah,
wild card series goes 3 games. I think it's like a
yep,
whole week. It's a
yeah,
long
it's crazy.
time. When was
So
I
to
don't have the
finish,
data in front of me, but I want to say every year we've had a wild card team advance past the divisional round. Like
yeah,
we've had every year a team that's won the wild card has also won a DS round.
yeah. It's happened. I mean, we've had wild card teams go to the World Series several times. So yeah,
Yes.
it's
D-backs,
been
right?
it's been,
D-backs.
yep. Phillies did it. It's been very interesting to
Philly.
see the way this is playing out here. But yeah, right now the Blue Jays are in the front runner seat for the number one seed in the American League as they have 90 wins, but just 2 games ahead of the New York Yankees. Mariners are 3 games up on the Astros, and with Cal Raleigh hitting another home run last night, it doesn't make sense analytically, Jared. I don't know if the writers that vote for the awards are going to look at all of the analytic numbers, or they're just going to be swayed by the fact that he's he might hit 60 home runs and the Mariners are going to win the division. Cal Raleigh's going to win the MVP. It pains me to say it. They're going to vote for him. He's going to win it. And it sucks
You can get
because,
him at plus money right now on FanDuel if you
yep,
think that.
it sucks because I'm heavily
I am
invested
not
in
so
Aaron Judge.
sure, to be honest with you, but I can see it happening.
Listen, I don't think he deserves it. I think that home runs are cool, but that doesn't mean that you're the MVP of the league. Cal Raleigh still has a batting average below the league average.
206 in the second half.
You can't be the MVP of the league and have half the league or more than that have a higher batting average than you. You can't be the best player in the league if you bat below the league average. I don't care that you hit
Yeah.
a shit ton of home runs. How are you the
I don't
best player in the
disagree
league?
with your take. I don't disagree with your take, but I also think if it does happen that way and it plays out that way, we also need to be open-minded to the fact that it's human beings voting for this award,
And it's
and
voter fatigue.
it could be voter fatigue. Yes, that could be a factor for sure, but also just like they do in politics. I always say the
Mhm.
award markets are the closest thing we have to politics in this country. Georgia used to be a red state, then it went blue. Like it just you just have to be willing to adjust to changing voter trends
Yeah.
and what the voters value might change over time. And we
Mhm.
don't get straw polls very often in baseball. When we do, they're very muddied and they're not really that accurate. We get them more in the NBA, so it's a little bit easier. Tim Bontemps does a good job of this, but this is the closest we have to politics. You have to be willing to change your opinion based off of the voting results.
I'll just leave you with a couple of advanced analytical numbers. So Fangraphs has a stat called park adjusted runs above average. That is how many runs you are worth offensively to your team above the average replacement player in Major League Baseball. Kind of like wins above replacement. This is runs above replacement, and it's park adjusted, meaning it changes. They're going to base it off, they're doing the whole thing, the whole settings and all that stuff, right? Aaron Judge leads all of Major League Baseball with 76.7 runs above average. Cal Raleigh is 48.2.
Mm.
Home runs are cool. Aaron Judge is still responsible for 30 more runs of value than you. It's
But
unbelievable.
again, like it just speaks to what the voters value.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
maybe this like nerd stuff this particular year because of what's happening on the other side of the nerd argument.
Yep.
It's just like it. I guess home runs are matter more than the nerd stats. But if all are equal, then the
Mm-hmm.
nerd stats are the decider, right?
Yep.
Like maybe that's kind of the trend that we need to adjust to, where home runs still move the needle, but if the home runs are relatively the same, then the nerd stats are kind of the tiebreaker,
It's
but doesn't need to
he's
be a
gonna win.
tiebreaker right now.
Raleigh's gonna win because there's gonna be voters out there that don't look at anything besides the home runs and the storylines, and that's it. Listen, we have
Them
remember
winning the
there was
division, I do think counts for something, especially if the
sure,
Yankees
sure.
don't win the
But like
division.
with all due respect to the baseball writers that vote for this, like there's going to be some writers that don't pay attention. Like think about it. Remember a couple weeks ago when Florida lost that game in college
Oh, the
football?
AP person, God
There was
rest her
one
soul,
AP
whatever else she
writer.
is.
There was one AP writer that had them in the top 25, and
God bless her.
and she defended it. And it's like
She
clearly she just
defended it.
clearly she read the box score wrong. Like she thought that maybe
God bless
Florida
her for
won and not
defending
South
it.
Florida.
Oh my
But
god.
like
She's like, "Oh, it's fun every week." Oh my god,
yeah,
that was so
so, like, that's
bad.
the
That was
thing,
so
like,
bad.
and that's the thing, like, there's probably a baseball writer that's gonna say, "Yeah, Cal Raleigh's the
Yeah.
MVP," and not even look at any stats and just be like, "Yeah, he hit a bunch of home
Yeah.
runs, he's gonna win." He's the MVP.
I
Okay.
interviewed. I remember when I did some stuff for You Better You Bet over the summer. We talked to Bob Nightingale a lot, who's an MVP voter, and he was
Yep.
very much in the Raleigh camp. He thought the home runs were a big deal.
Yeah.
So
A lot of
yes,
people
now
do.
he's an old school
Hmm.
kind of voter, not a new age analytics guy.
Yeah, like
So
I bet
yeah,
you he didn't vote for Felix Hernandez that year when he won the Cy Young,
yeah,
you know?
I don't know, but like I think if it's more like we're not there yet. Maybe in 20 years, this Raleigh thing would never be a thing because those guys are all dinosaurs and they're gone in 20 years. But right now, it's
Mhm.
still a thing.
Yep. In the National League, Dodgers are 3 games up on the Padres in the West, and the wild card races are fascinating because right now the Padres are pretty much going to get in. The Reds and the Mets are tied for the third wild card, with the Reds holding the tiebreaker. So if the
How did the
season ended
Mets lose
today,
2 or 3 to the Nats? I need under 67.5 wins for the Nats, and the Mets lose 2 or 3 in the playoff race. Those motherfuckers
if the
killing me.
season end if the season ended today, the Mets would not be in the playoffs.
That's
And
brutal. You cannot lose 2 or 3 to the Nats, a 90+ loss team in October, in September, late September.
Jared,
Cannot do it.
I have a bet this year on the Chicago White Sox longest losing streak over 8.5 games.
Oh yeah, that's
The, Chi-
right. We've talked about this.
the
Are they on a
Chicago White
losing streak
Sox
right now?
twice this year have had 8-game losing streaks, only to win the ninth game. Last week, the
Oh, they
Tigers
had
lost.
6.
Last week, the Tigers lost 6 straight games, and then they played the San Diego Padres, who were
Yeah.
battling with the LA Dodgers for the West, a
They won
division
that.
battle, and the White Sox beat the Padres.
That's so bad, dude.
They
That's
beat the
so bad.
Padres. Now
And then
then
they
they go
lost.
on
And then they lost the next two.
then they go on to lose the next 2, but
That's brutal, bro.
they beat the
That's brutal.
Padres.
So if the Nationals go 3-3 this week, I will win the bet under 67.5 wins.
Okay.
Because they're at 64 right now. But if the Mets did what they were supposed to do and sweep these mofos, then they
Mhm.
would have had to go 5-1 down the
Yeah.
stretch, which is not happening, even though they do play the White Sox at home the last 3 games. But I'll be honest, I kind of think I need Atlanta to sweep because I don't know if I trust these stupid White Sox to get me a win next week. I don't know if I do.
I last I checked on one of I did 5 entries in the Westgate MLB season wins contest. One of my entries is tracking to have 20 wins. That might be good enough to cash. I
Mm,
think 21 or 22 probably wins the contest. I
nice.
think 20 or 21 might be in the money because I think top 5 get paid out. So I don't know. I can tell you right now, th- the swings over the past week and a half have been ridiculous. Like you mentioned,
Mm,
the Nationals were sweating out that number. The Guardians number. How am I sweating? How was I ever sweating? The Guardians should have been way under. Like
yeah.
what? So many numbers have changed over the past week or so here in Major League Baseball to the point where I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it finishes out. If I can get in the money, great. I'm not anticipating that I am, but if I can have a 20-10, maybe I have a shot. 21-9, maybe I have a shot to cash. We'll update you after next week once we get the final win total numbers here in Major League Baseball. All right, he's Jared Smith. You can hit him up on social media at Jared Smith Bets. I'm Scott Seidenberg. You can hit me up at Scott's On Air. Enjoy the Monday Night Football game tonight. Hopefully we cash one of our same game parlays. And here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.